It's always fun to work all week on a talk and then not give that talk. So I was thinking as I was sitting here this morning about a couple of things. One is they both go back to when I was 18 in college. One is reading something about D.H. Lawrence and how he talked about ideas and experience. And we tend to take experiences and make them into ideas. And he wasn't a fan of that. And we want to, ideas we can put in pigeonholes, he talked about. But experiences kind of are much bigger than that. And so all the lists that we did this week are really experiences. And the second thing I wanted to say was about, and this also goes back to when I was 18. I would have some coffee in a cup and I would then add tea. And I just remembered as I did that today, because I didn't want to throw out the coffee, that I called it the drink of the dharmas. And I don't know what I had any idea of what dharma was, but this was the drink of the dharma. And I've been drinking, it's the same thing with the last intensive. I've been drinking this thing called Zen tea. And my wife pointed out to me after the first intensive that it had caffeine in it, but it's a miraculous tea. So if you can find it, drink Zen. And the third thing is about what's gone on this week. And it came down to me about this idea in photography that photos are really about the photographer, not about the subject. And in your talks, what really was the gift to me was seeing a little bit of you, a part that we hadn't seen before. And I also love that about our practice discussions, that I get to see something that is, I guess, inside the person. Oh, and a fourth thing that I was thinking about is, so for all my life, I taught studio art, and I mentioned to someone about, well, I would have the students give reports, but really what happens in studio art is people do work and then you look at the work with them and you get to see part of them in the work. So it's much closer to what we've done here in terms of that. So photos are about the photographer, drink of the Dharma, and D.H. Lawrence, ideas and experience. So I made a drawing and I have text for every talk, that was given. And they were really something that I took away from the talk that either I wanted to add or just reflect on. And so I'm going to share my drawings. And I have to reduce this so I can see it all. Okay, and reduce. Okay. And what I would like you to do, I can't see you, so Rosemary or I, whoever is monitor would have to call on the person. But I would really like you to, any reflection you want to have while I'm doing this, I would love.
So this is Ellen?
Yes.
Okay, Ellen.
I'm not hearing anything.
Did you want Ellen to read this as
No,
well?
no, just anything you would like to reflect on after I'm going to read it. But if you'd like to make any comment after I read it, that would be great. Enlightenment is often seen as a thing like a Rolls Royce. And in the drawing, there's a Rolls Royce kind of on a pedestal. If people could buy it, they probably would if they could afford it. The problem is that enlightenment isn't a thing, but rather an activity. In fact, there are no things, there are no essences and no permanencies. This last moment is gone forever and the next moment is just a pipe dream. Enlightened activity is something we can do. We experience it from time to time. Our challenge is to be a little more consistent. Zazen helps so that our eyeglasses don't have smudges. Inquiry helps to examine what obstacles are in the way. And study helps to discover what paths we might take to nurture these enlightening activities. So that came from Lori's introduction. And Jess, you said something about that you just read in a book.
Right.
You want to tell them about that? That was really neat.
Yeah. Taking all this in. Well, I was reading this book, Steve Hagen, Buddhism Isn't What You Think, and he was saying, you know, with meditation practice, it really boils down to having a regular practice, one, and then having a practice with people, with others, and then not judging on, not evaluating on how you think you're doing with your practice. And he said that, because I have an inconsistent practice, and he was like, you know, when your practice is inconsistent, it's like boiling a pot of potatoes and only turning the heat on high for like a minute every hour.
I love that analogy. Thank you, Jess. So anyone else before I go on, but I'm going to, yes.
Ellen, would you like, was this Ellen's piece or not? I'm sorry.
No, this is Lori's.
Oh, this is the intro. Okay, sorry.
It wasn't my piece, but I will say, well, I love it, of course. And like Jess, I mean, what I honed in on was the consistency. Just as that's the key, and that's actually the practice itself, is the consistency. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And this is Ellen's Four Noble Truths. A man was crossing in the middle of Guadeloupe. I slowed down and watched him make it to the other side. He proceeded to pick up something from the gutter. Then I heard a loud bang on the side of my car. My stories were endless. Was it the man who threw something at my car? Did I slow down enough? Was he mad at me because I had a car and he wasn't privileged as I was? Should I have stopped and yelled at him or called the police? Should I have been upset over what I was assuming was an assault? I wonder how one of the Buddha's bhikkhus might have handled the situation. Would he have simply said to himself, there was a loud noise on the side of the car, and then the bhikkhu would have returned to driving his car with mindfulness to the hardware store?
Yeah,
Go on.
want me to comment?
Sure, yes.
Well, when I read that, well, it's such an interesting story and such a contemplation that happened for you in the midst of this intensive. And so what comes up for me about it is that the Four Noble Truths are about our tasks, our actions. And so this whole thing looks like a contemplation to me that coincides with the Four Noble Truths. And so it looks like enlightened activity to me. That's me.
Now a week later, I had no idea that he threw anything at my car. All I saw was he picked up something and it seemed like a small thing. And the bang on my car was so loud and then there was no remnant of anything on my car. So like with everything, Lori and I talk about, this idea of the stories a lot. And like with everything, we just don't know. We don't know. Not knowing is most intimate. And this is Rosemary's, The Eightfold Path, View, Thought, Speech, and Action. I used to believe that tragedy dissipates. Sometimes it doesn't when it gets stuck in you. We sometimes don't have a choice of what happens in our lives, but we always have a choice how we might respond to it. And then there is how we might care for ourselves because of the choices we make. We may blame the other, as that is the easy road, but ultimately we drive our car, and we need to take care of that car and the driver as well. The Eightfold Path is a means to end suffering when we realize that craving for the world to be different creates much dis-ease. Do I really want a world where everyone loves one another and cares for one another? My craving for that is not self-care. And I'm not sure that world would be the planet I'd move to if Earth were to become inhabitable. Not inhabitable, should be. And so in the drawing, to move this, we have helpers, we have Rolls Royce, we have Rocky Road ATX, which is people, our name for Austin, rocks in the road. I think also the way our road has been messed up for the last year now. Right outside is and now with the little bit of rain, it's getting muddy and stuff, and so I'm kind of aware of this cars and roads and rocky and throwing things and.
Hey, Kim,
Yes.
your picture reminds me of what Tabrez was talking about, the sludge down below here, the sludge, and he was saying that or algae.
Alex.
Yes,
Algae
yes,
on
yes.
the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I connected when he was saying that about that.
Am I gonna be talking or?
If you want.
Yeah, can you go back to it? I mean, just, yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oops.
There we go.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, actually, I'm not sure. This is really a lovely, like Ellen was saying, contemplation of life in a way and what we expect. And I think my my drawing yesterday and that paramita talk, and my experience of impatience and then patience, yeah, it things, get, especially with trauma, things get triggered. And so, the space for those, for the taking care, I think is so important. And what you said here, how we take care of those things as they do arise. Yeah, it's sort of, for me, it goes back to the first slide, which was Lori's, about the practice and consistency, and how that helps with all of that as these things arise. So that's what I had for this. It's beautiful. Thank you.
I also saw that, like in the Nancy's background about mindful and mindful, my mind is pretty cluttered in this drawing, and it's always neat to see. For me, I find out what's in my mind when I'm writing, but more even with drawing. I don't exactly call myself the one who does the drawings, but they come out, and then I get to see what's going on. So there was a neat Superman movie where he's as a little boy or baby, and there's these icicles, and there's this information on the icicles. Does anyone see that? Anyway, that's what these are. These are icicles, and he's just come onto Earth. You are in a spaceship, as was Superman. Your planet was destroyed, and as a last act of love, your parents sent you to Earth. There are 3 marks of existence. Or characteristics that now define you, suffering, impermanent, and no self. Being an eternal optimist with great superpowers, you confront this dilemma. Is this good news? You still have enough fuel to go to another planet that has the opposite marks: continual bliss, permanence, and forever self. What do you choose and why, assuming you're not a masochist?
This came up with, Rosemarie mentioned this. Didn't you mention something about, like this, Rosemarie, about a planet being the opposite and thinking that it's better to be here with all the things that arise?
I'm not sure that was me. Maybe.
Kim mentioned that.
Anyway.
I mean, that's one of the advantages of this human realm, is that it's not nirvana. So we have a possibility for enlightenment.
Yeah, I talked about the 3 marks of existence, and yeah, I don't know, I mean, nirvana sounds pretty good, I know that we have the opportunity for.
Well, we certainly wish for nirvana, don't we?
Yeah.
That's our craving.
Yeah, all of us that came here wanted something like that. But I really like the imagery of, like, you're like from a different planet and you inhabit this and you realize that these are the 3 characteristics, and what do you do about it? Like, what? And it's like, for me, it's like, well, I'm here. I didn't necessarily ask to be here. I just kind of, I'm here now. Yeah, I've appeared and I'm a thing and I'm here, and this is the situation, and what am I gonna do about it,
Well, what are you gonna do?
Well, I like the thing about, what was it? Somebody said, if you knew you were gonna die, how would you live? And so I know I'm gonna, impermanence, I know I'm gonna die, and I know that there's suffering in this experience. And I think I thought about that a lot, and I asked my coworkers, what would they do if they knew they were gonna die? And I think, I agree, I think probably I would do sitting, and I would be with family, and I would just be here sort of acknowledging and appreciating this existence. I think with sitting is like you're really alone, or you're just with it, with all of it. And so that's probably what I would do, and work less, yeah.
Years ago, when I first saw the Rothko Chapel in Houston, I thought, if I knew I was going to die, I'd like to just sit here and be taken in with these paintings. They're so beautiful. It's a long time ago.
Can I just say, that was Blanche Hartman that I had read, How to Live When You Know You're Gonna Die. It's one of her,
Oh, yeah.
her little talks. And Seeds of a Boundless Life.
Thank you. Three poisons: greed, hate, and delusion. Maybe these should be called the three teachers. Each one of these, when recognized, guide us toward understanding. When ignored, they chew us up and spit us out. Are they loving teachers? Sometimes we don't think so. They are good friends, but not necessarily nice friends. What is funny is that they don't exist, and we often don't realize that. You can't touch, smell, hear, see, or taste them. Since we are the creators of these poisons, we should chew them up and spit them out, sending them merrily on their way. Maybe that takes a little practice. So they're kind of eating us up in the drawing.
And yet they're helpful,
They are, they're our teachers.
And yeah, I mean, they make you miserable, so you gotta change. It's the way I look at it, so it's kind of it provides the impetus to change things. If you see what I mean.
When we start to see them,
Yes.
see them as parts, or however you want to define it.
I also wonder that maybe it's more like a process, not so easy to just spit them out.
Exactly, and all of this is we forget that idea that it's a process, and a long process. And until recently, I was thinking about the Four Noble Truths, and how it seems it goes very quickly from one, there is suffering, there's a cause for suffering, there's a cause for suffering, really fast. But Buddha really spent a lot of time on there is suffering. So it's a slow process. It's not like, well, we can throw that out. We don't have any suffering,
Yeah.
or we have an end to suffering. Thank you for saying that, Gabriella.
Yeah, what comes to me is like different paths, and then when we go to the wrong path, then we experience all this misery, and then it's like a sign of, okay, go back to the, align ourselves to the practice. Yeah.
Kind of like a board game.
Yes.
Can I add something?
Sure.
So, like what Gabriella is saying, it's like, I thought this last line, I saw the P and I thought it was going to say, maybe that takes a little patience.
Oh.
Yeah, seeing them as parts, and I've always been intrigued with Zen that that I always think of these things as things that I'm doing that or that we are doing that are not helpful, not right thought, speech, or action. But it's often presented as suffering. So, and I think that's so true that whenever we are experiencing things, we are suffering, probably more than any suffering that we impose. And which means that, as Gabriella, these are really parts that are suffering and that need our attention. And spitting them out, is kind of a duality in a way. These are bad. Let's get rid of them. Thinking of it, I think can be helpful to think, like you said in the beginning, Kim, to see them as teachers. And I was thinking, well, how come maybe they should be presented as wearing caps and gowns, like professors. But that's the other extreme. But yeah, as really hurting parts, which, it's easy to think of getting rid of something. It's so hard. Well, I'm talking about myself now, to say, oh, hurting part. Let me be with this. Let me take a look at this. So thank you.
So if it was easy, you wouldn't have had a profession. People come once and you.
Well, having the profession and having people come is the good news. It's when people don't know and do these things, not knowing, not having any tools to take a look at what's hurting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Jess.
Like just the other day, yesterday maybe, after 4 or 5 days of this, I was walking in Kinhan, and I noticed that sometimes I get these just like little tingling, face tingling sensations or whatever, and I don't particularly like it, and I don't know what it means and all that, so I get upset with it, right? And then I was like, after 4 or 5 days of this, I was like, oh, let me just be with this experience as it is in this moment. Just, so there's a natural aversion and kind of pushing away, and then it's it's painful, it's then you're in this sort of pushing and whatever, and it doesn't, and so when I look at this, it's also, so the analogy of that to this in my head is there's these, it's there could be these parts of us that have these unmet needs, and and they're clamoring greed, I might feel unsafe, and so I might try to procure some wealth and maybe some not the best ways to feel safe, inside me. And and so this feeling that kind of comes up of I need more, it's not a comfortable feeling, and I probably don't really want to look at it deeply because it's uncomfortable, just like with my sensations. And so it's sort of these things are our teachers, and also the challenge for me is to be in a space where I can turn towards them, have the capacity to turn towards them, and hear, I think what Rosemary saying, hear their suffering, hear their discomfort and not feeling safe, and then there's a relationship, and then there could be something, but it took me so many days just for that one little example to do that,
It's so hard, isn't it? Turning toward them.
Yeah, it's very hard, and especially when you're very busy, it's Yeah,
Well, maybe it works the other way though, that we get very busy so we don't have to turn toward it.
exactly, yeah, that helps, yeah.
I was also wondering about the they don't exist, that we can't touch, smell, hear, see, or taste them. I wish I, I would not feel them, but I think it's a, even if they don't exist, we can really experience without all our body. I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
tough experience when we don't. Yeah.
we experience them as being very real. I think that's what I'm hearing you say, right?
Yeah. It, oh, it's a felt experience and it's
Yeah.
miserable. Yeah.
But try to hold it in your hand, as a physical thing, and it's not there.
Yeah.
And maybe that makes them more like a monster. The fact that you can't, they're so big and yet they're not there. Both are true. We were supposed to remember a time when we were
Would you
stuck.
give me a hand?
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that it must be hard for you to see the hands from there. That in the Tibetan tradition, they treat these with the opposites, and in a way that might be like, instead of spitting it out, part of the digestive process, the transformational process. And so for greed, the opposite of that is generosity, and hatred, the opposite's loving kindness. And I suppose opposite of delusion would be wisdom. And so each one of these, when they come up, they're like Dharma gates, and they have this opposite that's also part of you. And so you sort of, they talk about working with it that way. That's all.
Like antidotes.
Like antidotes. In fact, I think that's what they call them, antidotes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen, for mentioning that. Can I say something too, Kim?
Yes.
Yes, I was thinking from the IFS perspective also about like protective parts taking extreme roles in order to protect the system in a way, and yeah, it's really not about spitting them out, but really befriending them, and being with them, and then being able to access other parts that carry burdens and liberate them from these burdens. And then this protective part can take roles in our systems that are not extreme. And so then it's liberating. But actually spitting them out is just making the whole thing more extreme. So it's not helping. That's really about befriending them and transformation, so that all the parts can be together in a more healthy way. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that. I think other people shared about this before, but I wanted to clarify even more from the IFS perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say something, Rosemary, before. A benefit of our sitting is that it can take us to that place, Nellie, that you're describing, can it? Where we have, we can just kind of slow down enough so we don't do what our immediate kind of thing that we do, which is like wanting to spit them out, wanting to get rid of them, wanting to run, wanting to jump out the window, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Rosemary.
Yeah, thank you, Nellie and Kim. So just to add on to what Nellie said, and Kim, I think you're so right that practice is the, creates such a wide container for being with these experiences. And I think what, to add on to Nellie, it's the unblending when these emotions or impulses come up. It's the unblending from them so that we form a relationship with them. When we're identified with them, which is usually how it starts, like we are that, and then noticing that and unblending, and then you can, with that distance, have a loving relationship, an open relationship where you can see and have compassion. Yeah, I just wanted to add the unblending part. And yeah, practice is so valuable. It gives us the time and space to do that. Thank
I love how in the Satipatthana, Buddha goes from, my feeling to the feeling. And that seems to be unblending. So you're seeing this thing there, out there, instead of in here.
It also makes it more general, so like the sorrow, which includes everybody.
It's not my.
Yeah, it's specifically not mine, it's just a general condition.
Yeah, that helps so much.
Well, I'll just add that for me, it's not just one step like that. It's one step to my having relationship with my specific sorrow that then has an opportunity to expand to, if let's say that I'm feeling deeply painful about feeling unseen in a particular, traumatic situation in my life, then I begin to have a relationship with that part at that time. Then if one of the things that I do is I bring in a grandmotherly part that is another separation that says, oh, this grandmotherly part has been through all of that pain, but she's not feeling the pain now, so she can be the one listening to me. And then, then she can turn my gaze outward to say, oh, and look at you can see all of these people who felt that they weren't seen. Mm-hmm. You can vow to see. And then it goes even further. And guess what? She's telling me, and guess what? Look at all these people in your life that do see you. Mm-hmm. Look at the whole sun. So for me, it's like a progression. It's not like, it becomes general, but that's a personal expression of that. So sometimes it's just a little more steps in it.
Yeah, so unblending itself would be an activity, not like a thing. Something that occurs in time.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
That's good. That's good. I'll have to remember that. We were supposed to remember a time when we were stuck in the self-centered dream. Edward Weston, the photographer, titled his first day book, How Young I Was. I don't think I can use that as an excuse, though. Often I feel that I'm too old to be stuck. And not just stuck because life threw me something new or unexpected. It's the same old that makes my excuses so wobbly. I do have 3 friends that I can trust when wobbling, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Actually, it is a friend with 3 parts, because if you take away any of the parts, you have nada. What would Buddha be without the Dharma? What would the Sangha be without the Buddha and the Dharma? All are needed to make Johnny run. There was a book years ago, What Makes Johnny Run? I don't know if you all know of that. Not 2, not 3, but 1 with a question mark. Because Peg is always telling us, well, that's not the answer, 1. And so I was trying to illustrate the idea of wobbly. walking on these rocks.
Well, when I just got
Yes.
that one. I thought, earlier this week, I thought about that moment Buddha achieves enlightenment, and then he's like, oh God, nobody's gonna understand this. I'm not gonna be able to teach this. There's no one in the, like, this is my words, like, there's no one in the world that can identify with me in this. And that must have been a very lonely place to be. Like, I think we've all been there in some way, like, just feeling so tied off. And so, so yeah, anyways, like, I think that all three, everything came together there. But if it was just him being enlightened somewhere, I wonder if there would be, like, there would just be a loneliness around that, or a suffering around that, or something.
The part of the story that I love is he meets a man on the road and he tries to teach him something and he fails. And easily from that, it could verify what he was suspicious of, but instead he somehow has the brilliance that, well, maybe it's what he did that made it fail, and not it didn't verify his suspicion. He still went on and taught and tried to do it better. Because usually the first time we try something, it fails.
Right, yeah, that's right.
I mean, in fact, we fail over and over and over again until we don't. If the 5 desires were simply wealth, sex, food, and drink, fame, and sleep, then when met, the desire would go away. It is said that these arise from our sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, with their respective objects, color and form, sound, smell, taste, and texture. I believe our craving is much deeper than for things, especially considering the emptiness of such objects. Edward Weston, the photographer, wrote in his daybooks that with an hour's time and peace of mind, he can make great photos. When I ask myself what I desire, what would really fulfill me, it was first love and then art. Now I wonder if they are one and the same. And I have a lot of fun in my drawings misspelling things. Kind of, to kind of irritate my my English teachers. And also, so I have these imaginary dogs, and they go to school, and every night I tell my wife stories about how their school went. And they are brilliant. He's one of them's in the 2nd grade, but progressing to high school. And so in spelling bees, like, he'll do things like he'll spell the word backwards, but now he's gotten even better where he'll spell the next word that's going to be, like he'll do all kinds of things. So anyway, I have fun with that, with my dogs. And, I don't have to go home at lunch to walk them because they take care of themselves. Anyway, so that's Edward Weston and the great photo, and his view camera and the stars in an hour's time. 10 precepts. Our book's title, Waking Up to What You Do, almost says it all. The precepts aren't about creating guilt, shame, or guilt, but about waking up and seeing whether you've been pulled by karma or led by vow. In the book, for each of the precepts, Diane Rossetto says the rest with the phrase, I take up the way for each of the precepts. As bodhisattvas led by vow, we walk through the forest of life, loving and caring for everything in our path, including ourselves. That is the precepts. So I wanted a figure walking through life, but then I didn't have room except to have the figure lying down and smoking a pipe. So I put like roller skate cars underneath the figure. So it's kind of like being driven through life. I don't know, but it's not, this character is pretty much alive. So don't worry about him. And that in the upper left corner is kind of my image of God, you know, or people we've known who aren't around anymore looking down on us, or what Lori was referring to is seeing ourselves. So it's from outside ourselves. The 5 hindrances.
Kim, can I say something about that one? Thank
Yeah.
you. In taking the precepts, one of the most important things for me was that noticing that in our service, we have the repentance chant, and then we have the refuges. That the refuges, for me, without the refuges, I don't know if I could go through the precepts. Because you need compassion. You need compassion to look at yourself in that kind of a deep dive. In fact, I thought the guy was in the river, floating, flowing with life. That's what I saw.
Well, I love that idea of flowing. Yeah. Whether you're flowing in the forest or in the river.
Yeah. So compassion for me, like hand in hand with looking at yourself that deeply.
Such an important part of the precepts, not to feel any guilt or shame. You know, that this is just a path. The 5 hindrances, desire, ill will, sloth and torthrough, worry and doubt, cause much distress. They are not things like arrows. They are states of our mind and sticky creations at that. We try hard to remove them, but to no avail. They are like people who are hard to get along with. We can befriend these hindrances, appreciating how we've created them for some unknown reason, and seeing what we can learn about them. Like a car that burns oil and produces a white cloud of smog, we can look at the source of the hindrances and see the path to reducing their impact on us. And this is a self-driving Rolls Royce that we have around. We see them in the street now, and they have this revolving eye. And I was behind one the other day, and it was behind a city bus. And it turned on its turn signal. This is a driverless car. It turned on its turn signal to go into the lane to go around the bus. And then it saw, and this is all my story, but then it saw that there was solid cars in the lane and it couldn't move over. So then it turned off its turn signal. And I just love that it was able to drop this idea of what might be next. And not like, what we would do is we would swear to ourselves, why are there so many cars in Austin? Why does everyone move to Austin? On and on and on. It just simply dropped the idea of going around the bus and said, okay, I'll wait for the bus to move.
It's not human.
What?
It's not human.
It's not human. Could that be the last one?
Maybe.
That's the last one.
Oh, wow. What about did you do one for yesterday?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you do one for the Paramitas?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I'm kind of lazy. And when would I have done that?
Yeah, that's
At
good.
1 o'clock like last night. I think I did. Actually, I stopped at 1. That looks like a sandwich to me, with the guy lying down there.
We didn't see that one. We didn't see that one.
Do I really believe there is an end to suffering? There's a sizable difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the first start. Suffering is what our minds do with the pain, rolling around in it and being unable to separate ourselves from it. We can certainly get better at not adding insult to injury, as the saying goes. But is there always a remaining remnant of suffering? Does it ever go away? Is it our conditioning? Would we even want it to go away? I hit my head on a shelf today as I leaned closer to the laptop because I wanted to listen better. My wife told me there is still a little scar, and I wanted there to be a scar, a red badge of courage. Will it always hurt just a little? Does the bell always ring? Jess and I were talking about that, weren't we? A long time ago. I mean, when you were training to do a timekeeper, does the bell ring and ring and ring and ring forever?
That was your question.
That was my question. Yeah, does it ever stop? And does the scar ever really go away? So I don't know, is it gone? I think it's gone.
It looks gone. It's not red anymore anyway.
Yeah, but it's still there because I still remember hitting my head on that edge.
There's a remnant there.
There we go. So, how are we doing for time?
Technically we have 6 minutes before the next activity, which is Kenyan.
Okay. If anyone would like to add anything, Rosemary has her hand up. You ought to put that in your screensaver, just put your hand up, and then you don't have to do it.
Yeah. So I was thinking that if there were an end to suffering, there would be an end to compassion.
Say it again, if there
was an end to suffering, there would be an end to compassion, or they're very related. That's really what I was trying to say.
I agree, yeah. Okay.
Well, I was waiting for the Zoom, but I mean, I appreciated the artwork to kind of, I don't know, it's exciting to see the talks and to see the imagery, like your version of, what you processed and the imagery of it. It was kind of fun to see, like, well, what will the next one be like, the next talk, and then what does my talk look like? Yeah, I mean, so let me ask you, Kim, like, the process of drawing the art, how did that have a change in kind of like when you listen to the talk and then you draw the art, was there a change in like your understanding of the material or your feelings about it through the artistic process?
Well, this might not exactly answer your question, but there's kind of conceptually what we ought to believe, and then where I actually am in the process, and the drawings are where I am in the process, you know, like wanting to eat and spit it out kind of thing. So I get to see that. Here I am. You know, we can pretend that we're farther along the path than we are, but then the proof is in the pudding. You know, the same way in terms of how we move through life.
Well, I mean, it seemed like it brought up a lot of material from the group as well. Like the entire hour was covered with a lot of questions and reflection.
I appreciate that. So thank you all.
Thank you, Kim.
And not just for, you know, this, but for the whole week. It's really been a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Kim, for that incredible presentation. Thoughtful.